The moment he looked up from the cafe table and saw a little girl clutching a woman's hand, his breath caught in his chest, not with anger, not with judgment, but with a quiet shock that reopened wounds he thought time had sealed shut. Sunlight poured through the wide glass windows, spilling warmth across the polished floor, yet inside him something trembled, fragile and uncertain, as if the past had suddenly stepped into the present without knocking. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us what it truly means to be human, take a moment right now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel One Heart Stories. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Maya Carter had almost cancelled the blind date 3 times that morning. The sky was bright and blue, birds cutting lazy arcs across the afternoon air, yet her heart felt heavy as she buttoned her light cardigan and smoothed her daughter's hair. Life as a single mother had taught her to expect disappointment before hope, to prepare for rejection even when she smiled. She had no babysitter, no family nearby, and a stubborn refusal to hide the most important part of her life just to make someone comfortable. Bringing her little girl felt honest, but honesty often came with a price. As she walked toward the cafe, her daughter Lily skipping slightly beside her, Maya's thoughts raced with memories of doors closing softly but firmly in her face. Ethan Rowe had arrived early, as usual. A habit carved from years of responsibility, from mornings that began with packing lunches and tying shoelaces before sunrise. Being a single father had stripped life down to essentials: patience, resilience, and quiet love. He sat there stirring his coffee, watching people pass by under the bright noon sun, reminding himself that this was just a meeting, nothing more. After his wife had passed away years earlier, the idea of starting again felt distant and complicated. Dating was unfamiliar territory, filled with expectations he wasn't sure he could meet. Still, something had urged him to try, to step back into the world instead of watching it move on without him. When Maya approached the table, the space between them seemed to tighten. Ethan noticed Lily immediately, her small fingers wrapped around her mother's sleeve, her eyes curious but cautious. In that instant, memories flooded him: hospital corridors bathed in harsh light, the weight of holding his own child while pretending not to fall apart, the long afternoons where silence screamed louder than words. He stood instinctively, not knowing what else to do, his face unreadable as Maya searched it for clues, bracing herself for the familiar shift, the polite excuse, the gentle retreat. The challenge hung thick in the air, unspoken yet heavy. Maya had faced this moment before, the quiet judgment that followed the realization she came as a package deal. She prepared herself to apologize, to explain, to leave with dignity intact. But Ethan did not step back. Instead, something softened in him, a recognition deeper than logic. He saw not inconvenience, but courage. He saw a woman who chose truth over ease, and a child who had already learned to read rooms too carefully for her age. They sat together under the midday glow, sunlight warming their hands resting on the table. The conversation moved slowly at first, careful and tentative, like people crossing thin ice. Lily remained close to her mother, drawing small shapes on a napkin, occasionally glancing up at Ethan. He felt the weight of responsibility acutely, knowing that every gesture mattered. His struggle was not whether he could accept a child on a date, but whether he was ready to let his guarded heart open again, to risk loving in a world that had once taken everything from him. As time passed, the tension eased. Laughter slipped in unexpectedly, light and genuine. The cafe buzzed softly around them, cups clinking, sunlight shifting as clouds drifted lazily overhead. Ethan found himself relaxed in a way he had not felt in years. Maya felt something unfamiliar too, not the sharp edge of fear, but the gentle possibility of being seen fully and still welcomed. Lily, sensing the change, leaned closer to the table, her presence no longer an obstacle but a quiet bridge between two wounded adults. What changed everything was not a grand gesture or dramatic declaration. It was the simple way Ethan adjusted his chair so Lily could see out the window better, the way he listened without interruption as Maya spoke about balancing work, motherhood, and exhaustion. It was the understanding in his eyes, forged from his own nights of doubt and quiet strength. In that bright daytime moment, something fragile began to heal. By the time they stood to leave, the sun was still high, casting long, hopeful shadows across the street. Maya realized her hands were no longer shaking. Ethan realized that the fear he carried had not vanished, but it had softened into something manageable, something human. Life had not promised them certainty, only honesty, and the courage to show up as they were. Just before the ending, special request, please comment below where you are watching from and what kindness means to you. As they parted ways, there was no rush, no pressure, only a shared understanding that sometimes love does not arrive perfectly timed or neatly packaged. Sometimes it shows up in the middle of the day, holding a small hand, asking quietly to be given a chance. If this story touched your heart, moved you, or reminded you that kindness can change lives, please engage with this video. Your likes, comments, and shares help spread these moments of hope to others who need them most.